The debate is still raging. Many don't know where it will end. Many don't know how it will end. But a lot are certain that the highest court of the land, that is the Supreme Court, will build the final arbiter over whether Goodluck Ebele Azikwe Johnathan, a Grand Commander of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Grand Commander of the Order of the Niger, who was born on November 20, 1957, can still be eligible to stand for the presidency in 2027. Welcome to another edition of Countdown to 2027, a subset of Talking Politics with Dr. Oladipo. I am your regular host on this program, Dr. Oladipo, who is the managing editor of The Eagle Online, which operates at www.theeagleonline.com.ng. In this edition, we'll be looking at the issue that dominated the political scene for the better part of the last few days. And that has been whether former President Goodluck Johnathan will run for the presidency in 2027, and more so, if he's even eligible to run. That debate has lingered in the last few years, and it seems that there is no end yet to it. Lawyers have spoken, but they are yet to agree on what the correct position of the law is. As such, some have headed to the courts. And one of such courts, years back, delivered a judgment that is still standing and which some are saying could go as far as the Supreme Court if eventually Dr. Johnathan decides to run. But the debates came back last week, largely because of the position of politicians, especially those from the north, who would want a southern candidate to do another 4 years, but not President Bola Tinubu. And it became utter when the Labour Party presidential candidate in the 2023 elections, Peter Obi, offered to do a single term if he's going to be elected as president in 2027. Like we explained on our last edition of this program, that decision of Peter Obi suits the North perfectly, because having done 4 years under President Tinubu, the South, they expect, will concede the presidency to the North in 2031 after another 4 years, by preferably, to those of them who are canvassing that position, another candidate and not the incumbent, President Bola Tinubu. And with that debate in motion, many people were also quickly reminded about the fact that there is still a controversy over the eligibility of Dr. Johnathan, who many of them said could be a good replacement for Tinubu in 2027, if he's even eligible to run. And that debate, like I said earlier, will likely end in the Supreme Court. But the first question is, what led us to this? When Dr. Johnathan took over from the late Umaru Yar'Adua as president, towards the tail end of their tenure, he did about 1 year in office and then sought re-election, which he won, and did another 4 years, making his total term in the presidency as president 5 years. The Constitution says, and very clearly too, that anybody seeking to occupy the office of the president can do so for a term of 4 years of two terms. With Johnathan having done 5 years, many are arguing that if he contests and wins another election, he would have done 9 years. Indeed, some are saying this was one of the reasons why he lost the presidential election to late President Muhammadu Buhari in 2015. The contention was that having done 5 years, the North did not want him to do another 4 years that would have made it 9 years for him. How did we get here? Some have also asked. There has been this idea of rotating the presidency between the South and the North since the return to democracy. However, the death of former President Yar'Adua upturned a lot of permutations in the occupation of the presidency. And as such, there has always been this move to balance the equation between the number of years the South has spent occupying the presidency and what the North has also done. And then there also came an amendment to the Constitution that was signed by former President Muhammadu Buhari on June 4, 2018. That amendment said that anybody who has occupied the presidency based on the fact of completing the tenure of an incumbent for whatever reason, which could be death or illness, should not seek election again for more than one term. The same thing applies to governors. And that is the fact that anybody who has stepped in from being a deputy governor to complete the tenure of a governor cannot again run for more than one term. That's what the law says. But there has been debate over it. And with Johnathan having left office before that rule came into effect, the law, many are saying it shouldn't be affected because it should not take a retroactive effect, but rather should become effective from the date it was signed into law, and as such, should not affect somebody like Johnathan, who the responsibility of the presidency was trusted upon following the death of Yar'Adua on May 5, 2010. Human rights lawyer Femi Falana, who is also a senior advocate of Nigeria, before the 2023 election that brought in President Tinubu, had argued that Johnathan was not eligible to run. And the premise of his argument was that constitutional amendment that was made during the tenure of Buhari. At that time, that was before the election and before Asiwaju Tinubu indicated firm interest in the presidency. There were reports that Johnathan was being wooed by the All Progressives Congress to run for the presidency. Following that, Falana issued a statement in 2022. And that statement, I'll give you 2 paragraphs from it to lay the foundation for what he said and solidify this discussion. Falana said in that statement, it has been confirmed that former President Goodluck Johnathan has decided to join the All Progressives Congress with a view to contesting the 2023 presidential election. However, the former president is disqualified from contesting the said election by virtue of Section 137, subsection 3 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, which provides as follows. A person who was sworn in to complete the term for which another person was elected as president shall not be elected to such office for more than a single term. Indeed, at that time, Johnathan had also, like we said earlier, enjoyed the presidency after completing the tenure of Yar'Adua. Let's look at what the Constitution says. That's the 1999 Constitution, the 4th alteration, number 16, Act 2017. The Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, in parentheses, in this act refers to as the Principal Act, is altered to set out in this act. Section 137 of the Principal Act is altered by inserting, after subsection 2, a new subsection 3. And that subsection states, a person who was sworn in as president to complete the term for which another person was elected as president shall not be elected to such office more than a single term. At that time in 2022, like we said, the posters of Johnathan had started flying all over Abuja. And this led to a court case in which some people wanted the court, this time around, the Federal High Court, to determine if Johnathan was eligible to run. That case at the Federal High Court, sitting in Yenogwa, Bayelsa State, eventually ruled that Johnathan was eligible to contest the 2023 presidential election. The presiding judge, Justice Issa Amadashen, in the suit filed by Andy Solomon and Idibiye Abraham, those were the first and second plaintiffs, and with Johnathan, the APC Independent National Electoral Commission, as first, second, and third defendants respectively, said Johnathan was eligible to contest that election. In the judgment, and now I'm going to quote Justice Dashen, who said, Johnathan, as acting president after the death of Yar'Adua, was a constitutional provision. According to him, the 2007 general election that produced Yar'Adua as president and not Johnathan, that is separating the two men now, stressing that Section 137 could not have a retroactive effect to stop Johnathan from contesting that 2023 polls. It was very clear. And you recollect that, as I said earlier, should this law have a retroactive effect? Some lawyers are saying no, some are saying yes. Now, going further, Justice Dashen ruled that there was no presidential election conducted in the country in 2010. 2010 was when Johnathan took over following the death of Yar'Adua, and that Johnathan could not be deemed to have been sworn into office of the president that year. He said that Section 137, which came into effect on June 7, 2018, following the 4th alteration of the Constitution, cannot apply retrospectively except the legislature is in clear terms expressly stated their intention for it to be so. So also did the judge rationalize that if Johnathan had won re-election bid in the 2015 general poll, which he lost to Buhari, he would have been inaugurated as president without any legal impediment. So let me now quote him what he said. In my opinion, the position being propounded by the first defendant that is eligible to contest is tenable. It is the duty of the plaintiffs to direct this court where the legislature stated that the provisions of Section 137, subsection 3 of the Constitution are to apply. I therefore find the arguments of the first defendant that he has only been elected into the office of president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria only once, and in the year 2011, not only irresistible, but established and I so hold. In law, he who asserts must prove. I find that the plaintiffs have not discharged the burden of proof placed on them by law. I therefore find merit in the argument of the first defendant that the introduction of Section 137 of the Constitution does not affect his right to contest for the office of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in the 2023 general elections. Before the year 2015, when the first defendant lost his election bid into the office of President, the restriction by Section 137, subsection 3 was not in existence. If he had won the 2015 general elections, he would have been sworn in for the third time without any legal impediment. The first defendant acquired his right to contest for the office of president immediately after his term as president on May 29, 2015. Clearly, this is incontrovertible that the first defendant's right to contest and be sworn in as president was vested in him on May 29, 2015, and I so hold. If further held, that's Justice Dashen now, I declare that the provision of 137 subsection 3 of the Constitution acquired the force of law with effect from 7th June 2018, and as such does not have retrospective application. I also declare that the first defendant is not disqualified by the provision of Section 137 subsection 3 of the Constitution from contesting for election into the office of President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in the 2023 general election. Consequently, I enter judgment for the first defendant, and all the relief sought by the plaintiffs in their originating summons dated 16 May 2022 and filed on 17 May 2022 are all hereby dismissed. So, like I said, that's where we are now. Who is right? Who is wrong? But even after that judgment, lawyers of both sides have been speaking. And like we said, they are canvassing their positions. The lawyer to the plaintiff is saying that their position remains right. And it is certain from what observers have been saying that anytime Johnathan decides to run and is so confirmed, the case will move from this court to the Court of Appeal and then to the Supreme Court. Let's hear what one of the lawyers of the plaintiffs, what he said. Let me quote him now. We challenge the eligibility of Dr. Goodluck Johnathan. We canvassed our position before the court that is no longer eligible to contest for the presidency by the introduction of Section 137, subsections 1, subsection B and 3, because he had taken the oath of the office of president twice. By the introduction of subsection 3, which is the law now, it is a position that under the law as it is going to be screened for the elections coming in 2023. He said they also do not want a situation where Johnathan would come to transgress the law for so much integrity he had worked hard to acquire and would be allowed to slip into an error. He said they are going to study that judgment and proceed to the Court of Appeal. The lawyer of the president, Eric Omari, had this to say. The court agreed with us and held that President Johnathan is qualified to contest the 2023 general elections. And he told the lawyers to the plaintiffs that they are ready to meet them at the Supreme Court. That's the back and forth that the lawyers have done. And it's a debate that is ongoing for both sides. Unfortunately, for those who have engaged in this debate, like he did in the past, Johnathan has not weighed in to the controversy that is going on. He has still kept quiet and has not said if he's going to contest or not. However, as at last year, his wife, Patience Johnathan, who is now a doctor herself, has said the presidency is a no-no for her husband again. There could be something she's saying that we are not saying. But when she spoke, when she hosted the Greater Igbo Forum in Abuja, the former First Lady said pointedly that Johnathan was committed to supporting President Tinubu's administration and that he won't return to the villa. Let me quote her. "My husband has reached the pinnacle of political office. What is he looking for again? We are not going in again." And then she urged those who visited her, that's the Igbo people, to unite and focus on the collective good rather than personal or political differences. Let me quote her again. She said, "We should love this country more than ourselves. Because if we don't love this country, what is the future of our children?" She also urged those who came to visit her to manage the affairs of the country, that we should live in love. And that was where she left it. But her position was no going back to the villa. Will that be so? Not likely. The PDP is saying the People's Democratic Party, on which platform Johnathan was elected, is looking in his direction now for succor. The party, which has been torn to shreds in the last few years, wants a rallying point. And some elders, including former Minister of Information and National Orientation, Professor Jerry Ghana, are saying it is still possible for PDP to be a force in the 2027 elections. Initially, what the party did was to look in the direction of Peter Obi to return to the party from the Labour Party and with his one leg in the African Democratic Party, African Democratic Congress, to return home to the PDP. The belief is that Obi can do well by bringing back many of those who have left the fold of the PDP. But after a while, he said, that's Professor Ghana now, that Obi might not eventually be the savior, and that they are rallying round to ensure that they get someone who has not even left the party to become the rallying point for recovery. And as we all recollect, Johnathan has not left the PDP since he joined. Even when there were talks of his being wooed by the APC in 2022 to be the presidential candidate of that party, he did not say a word. What he said then, and which was non-committal, was that people should watch out and follow the developments. Is he going to accept to return to the PDP and be the PDP presidential candidate? Some are saying yes, he has agreed to. But we here on this program have not been able to confirm that. Some said he has been talking to Peter Obi to step down his ambition for him and return to the PDP so that they could challenge the APC in the upcoming election. We can't confirm that also. But what we can confirm is that Johnathan running favors two main institutions. It favors the North and it also favors the PDP. For the North, it ensures that it can't do more than one term and then for a northern candidate to take over the presidency. For the PDP, is a great rallying point. Is a man that has the political muscle to rally people around because everybody is his friend. And he commands a great deal of respect among the people, especially those who benefited countrywide from his government. How this ends is what we cannot predict. But one of the things that we are certain of is the moment Johnathan decides to run in 2027, the case that seems to have died will definitely move up to the Court of Appeal and then to the Supreme Court. And for the better part of last week, as we wind this down, the usual brickbats, what Nigerians will call gbasgbos, has been unending between the African Democratic Congress and the All Progressives Congress. The PDP and the Labour Party are battling their internal crisis and hoping that something will give way. We are also watching. And like we promised you when we started this series, we'll keep you updated every week. Don't forget that you need to like this, you need to share it, and you need to subscribe to our channel to keep us going. That's the energy, that's the tonic that we need to ensure that we keep you informed on developments on the political scene week in and week out. I'm your regular host, and as I sign out, I say to you, don't forget to like this edition, don't forget to share it, and don't forget to follow us on all our social media handles. It's there in the bio of the channel. Until when we see next week, it's bye for now. And stay good.